Hi guys, this is Sandra Takaji. Recently I wrote a few articles that were published. The first one was on the Modern Slavery Act and it was published in LexisNexis, just talking about what the proposed bill should entail, and so making some recommendations there. We know that there is slavery in our raw material supply chains, but we also need to draw attention to the service supply chain slavery that exists here in Australia, including in brothels, and some of our recommendations in relation to there being no thresholds and for all companies and businesses to comply with reporting. Secondly, I wrote an article about prostitution not being inevitable in communities, and that international human rights law and precedent is actually incompatible with legalised and decriminalised prostitution, and a lot of jurisdictions are moving towards recognising that legalising an industry that promotes gender-based violence is incompatible with international human rights. And so international best practice is moving away from that and towards gender equality and women's rights practices in those industries and legislation. And I also wrote about a really sensitive matter in relation to migration law. So children in detention, there are some who are advocating for children to be released, and I do argue that separating children from their families in such a volatile situation can be harmful and create further trauma to them. It can lead to institutionalization of the child, as well as expose them to other harms. And of course, when that occurs, so when the release of children occurs, it actually encourages smugglers themselves to target children, to smuggle them, and see that as a way of enabling and assisting the family, whereas in fact it's putting the child in danger. So these are extremely complicated and complex conversations to have, but basically what I'm trying to say is we need to consider the unintended consequences of our lobbying if we are calling for children to be released, what implications that will have. And I'm talking from an experiential as well as academic perspective. So being a refugee child myself and working across Australia's detention centres through a humanitarian organisation, as well as studying migration law and being across this stuff policy-wise in the past, not so much recently. But yeah, so check those articles out. It's really important for us to engage in these matters, even though they are difficult conversations to have. We should have them, and check them out on Austlii. I've got some articles on Ethos, on LexisNexis, in the Tasmanian Times. There's a few random ones out there. So if you've got feedback for me, happy to receive that as well. Hope you're having a great weekend. See you soon. Ciao.